Hi! In this video, you will learn how to create a 3D model in FreeCAD. FreeCAD is a fully free 3D CAD system that we can use both as a hobbyist and commercially. To use FreeCAD, all we need to do is download the installation file, install the program, and we can already use this program. To do so, go to freecad.org. Then click Download Now. Select the operating system you are using, download the installation file, install the system, and you can already use FreeCAD. As you can see, you don't have to register anywhere. You don't have to enter your data anywhere. Just download, install, and you can already start creating your own 3D models. And at the time of recording this video, the current stable version is version 0.21.1. If you used FreeCAD before 5 to 6 years ago, a lot has changed since then, and FreeCAD has developed a lot. Many things have been improved, and the operation of FreeCAD itself is more stable, so it's worth checking out the latest version. Okay, now I will move on to FreeCAD. FreeCAD is a system designed for technical 3D modeling, where we tend to design parts with regular shapes. In FreeCAD, we are unlikely to design parts with freeform shapes like figures. And FreeCAD has a modular structure. We have more than a dozen different modules here, and these modules are designed for different applications. And in this video, we're going to use the Part Design module. And in this module, we work in such a way that based on a 2D sketch, we add an operation to create 3D solids. That is, first, we create a flat drawing. Then we add an operation, for example, to extrude this drawing so that we get a solid. As you have already selected the Part Design module, then select Create Sketch and here select the work plane on which we will create this sketch. Select the XY plane, and what you can pay attention to, we have been switched to the Sketcher module. This is the Sketcher module, where we create 2D shapes. And here we have tools to create different shapes, and these shapes can be combined with each other, and there can be several different shapes in one drawing. Before we go on to create a sketch, click here and make sure that you have these two options of automatic constraints and remove redundant constraints automatically checked. Okay. Now let's draw a rectangle. Select Draw a Rectangle, and as you hover over the beginning of the coordinate system, this point will be highlighted. Click on this point with the left mouse button, and this means that the first corners of the rectangle have been placed at the beginning of the coordinate system, and place the second corners anywhere. And now, to finish drawing the rectangle, to finish any command in the sketcher, click the right mouse button. And this command is no longer active, because if we didn't do that, we can draw more geometries. Okay, if you have some geometry in the sketcher, you can select it and press Delete to delete it. And so, we already have a rectangle created, but such a rectangle is not really useful when it comes to creating a 3D model based on a 2D sketch. Because now, when I grab, for example, this corner, I can change the dimensions of the rectangle. To specify the dimensions of the rectangle, we need to use dimensions and select the Constrain Horizontal Distance. Then select this line and enter 100 mm here. Okay, I made a mistake. I entered 10, but we can edit a dimension. Just double-click with the left mouse button and we can change the value of the dimension. Here we have the dimension already defined, but the vertical dimension is still missing. We can't change the length of the rectangle anymore because it is just defined. But we can still change the vertical dimension because this dimension is not specified. As for adding dimensions, we can add dimensions by either pointing to the geometry or by specifying the distance between 2 points. And now I'm selecting those 2 points. When it comes to selecting geometry in the sketcher, we don't have to hold the Control key. We just click the left mouse button and these geometries are selected. Then I select the vertical dimension and here I enter, for example, 70 millimeters. By turning the mouse wheel, we can zoom in and out. As far as navigation is concerned, the navigation method determines the navigation style. I have the Blender navigation style selected here, and if you hover the cursor over this place, a pop-up window with a hint will appear. And here we have information on how navigation works in FreeCAD. If you press the mouse wheel, you can rotate the view. If you press Shift and the mouse wheel, you can move the view. If you tilt the view, and you want to return to the top view, then you can use this cube. Click the top, or you can use the standard views. As you might have noticed, the sketch has turned green. This means that the sketch is fully constrained, and this is what we strive for in 3D CAD systems, to have the sketch fully constrained before creating a 3D model based on the sketch. This means that we cannot freely change this sketch by grabbing an element of that sketch. I cannot change the dimensions of that element, nor can I move that element. In that case, as the sketch is fully constrained, we have to make changes consciously by editing the dimensions or editing the constraints. Let's create a circle here. Select Draw a Circle and draw a circle here. As you can see, this circle is not constrained. We can freely change the position of this circle, and we can freely change the diameter of this circle, and this is what we need to constrain. Now let's choose the diameter constrain, select the circle, and here as the diameter enter 30 millimeters. And now let's specify the distances of this circle from this edge. Select the horizontal distance first. Select this point and this point. And here enter 30 millimeters as well. Right-click to cancel this command. And as you can see in this axis, the circle is already constrained, and I can't move it left or right. I can only move it up and down, because we just have here defined the distance from this point to this circle in the x-axis. Now select the second distance. Select this point, and here let's enter, for example, 25 millimeters. Right-click to cancel this command. We can move the dimensions so that they don't obscure the view. And so this sketch is fully constrained. We can create a 3D model based on this sketch. Such a basic operation for creating 3D models in 3D CAD systems is the sketch extrude operation, and in FreeCAD, this is the pad operation. Select this operation. And here specify the length of the extrusion, which in this case is the height of the part. And enter here, for example, 15 millimeters. As you click next to this field, and as you have the Update View option checked, the view will be updated. Click OK to accept. And here you can switch to the Model tab, and we have the operation tree. The extrude operation is the pad operation, and based on the sketch that's contained in that operation, an extrusion of that sketch has been added. And this sketch is just absorbed into this operation. And if, for example, you would like to edit this sketch, change its dimensions, you can do it by editing this sketch. All you have to do is just expand the pad operation and right-click on the sketch. Select Edit Sketch here, and we can, for example, change some dimensions. I'm going to enter 120 millimeters here. Okay. And the changes have also been applied to the solid. And so, this 3D model is not very complicated. But when creating models in 3D CAD systems, we can do it in such a way that we create this 3D model in parts. That is, we first create one 2D sketch, add an operation to create a 3D solid, then add another 2D sketch, create another 3D model piece, and so on and so forth. And here, to create another piece of the solid, we can create another sketch on this wall. And to do that, select this wall and select Create Sketch. Now I'd like to create another sketch that will be related to this solid, and I select Draw Rectangle. And I would like the first corner of the rectangle to lie in this corner of this solid. As you can see, even though I have automatic constraints enabled, I can't hook to this point. I'll draw a rectangle anywhere for now. Okay? I click right to cancel this command, and to use the geometry that was created in the previous step in this sketch, I need to create reference geometry, which will just be the reference geometry for the previous stage of the 3D model. And we can do this using the Create External Geometry command. Select this command and select this line. And now this line is the reference geometry to which we can constrain the next sketch. Now right-click and select this point and use the coincident constraint so that these 2 points are connected, and do the same with this point and select the coincident constraint. And these 2 points are connected. Then, using the dimension, specify the length of this line, for example, 25 millimeters, and this sketch is already fully constrained, and based on this sketch, we can add another part of the 3D solid and, for example, here add an extrusion of 25 millimeters. And sketch extrude is one of the basic operations for creating 3D solids in 3D CAD systems. But the other basic operation is the material removal operation based on the 2D sketch. And now let's add another sketch on this wall. Select this wall and select Create Sketch. And let's add the slot geometry here. Select Create Slot and draw the slot here. Right-click to cancel this, and now let's add dimensions. First, the distance between these points. Here, enter 25 millimeters. Then the distance between these points. Select these 2 points and select the vertical dimension, and here, enter 10 millimeters. As you can see, we already have a dimensioned slot, but its position in the workspace is not defined. Now we need to somehow relate this slot either to the existing geometry or to the origin of the coordinate system. And I would like this slot to lie in the center of this solid, and I would like the center of the slot to be offset from the top edge of this model by 10 millimeters. And so we can do this in a couple of different ways. For example, we can use dimensions and specify the dimensions of this slot relative to this point. Or we can use external geometry. Select this command and select this edge. Right-click to cancel this command. And create another line here. Okay, right-click. Now select this point and this line, and select Symmetry Constraint so that this line lies in the center of this solid. And so, this line already lies in the center of this solid. Now select this point, and this line, and select the Symmetry Constraint so that to place the slot symmetrically to this line. And now click this point and select the vertical dimension, and here type in 10 millimeters. And so, the geometry of the slot has changed its color to green. This means that this geometry is already defined, fully constrained. But still, we have 2 degrees of freedom here. Clicking here will highlight the geometries that are not defined, and the line is not yet fully defined because we can change its dimensions. And adding constraints for this line is no longer necessary because at this point, only the shape of the slot is important. This geometry is only supposed to be an auxiliary line, but we can easily add these constraints, and we can do it in such a way that we select this point, select the x-axis, and select Constrain Point onto Object. And here, in this case, we can select this point, and select Constrain Horizontally. And okay, the whole sketch is fully constrained. The geometry has changed its color to green. But this sketch is wrong. Sketches in FreeCAD cannot intersect, and we cannot use such a sketch for another operation. This line is just an auxiliary geometry. We created it just to have a line of symmetry here, relative to which we can place the slot. And we can change this line to a construction line. All we have to do is select it. Select Toggle Construction Geometry, and this line changed its color to such a bluish color. And at this point, this line will no longer take part in the operations of creating 3D solids. It will only be an auxiliary geometry of the sketch. At this point, we can exit the sketch. Based on this sketch, I wanted to show you another solid operation, but I'll show you that we can create another extrude based on this sketch. We can add another part of the 3D model here. Cancel this operation, and the next basic operation for creating 3D solids is the operation where we remove material based on the 2D sketch. This is the pocket operation. Select this operation, and here we can create just a pocket. Based on this sketch, we can create a pocket for a specific dimension. We can enter the specific value for which the pocket is to be created. We can select here the type through all, and the pocket will be made through the whole solid. But we can also select here, for example, the up to face type, and we can manually select the face to which the cutout is to be made. The difference between this option, up to face, and the option through all is that if here we also had another part of the 3D model, this pocket would be made through the whole solid. If there was something sticking out here as well, this pocket would go through that as well. Here, by selecting the option up to face, we select the feature of the model to which the pocket is to be made, or we can simply specify the dimension. And here we can enter a specific dimension value. And, okay, we use two basic operations to create 3D solids. One operation is the extrude operation, which adds material based on the 2D sketch, and the other is the pocket operation, which removes material based on the 2D sketch. We have two more basic operations for editing 3D solids, and they are the operations fillet and chamfer. Fillet operation allows you to add rounded edges. Here, select two edges of this solid. As for selecting edges in this view, here we do it with the Control key. Select the edges, select the fillet operation, and specify the radius value, 5 mm, and click OK. The chamfer operation works similarly. Select the edges, select the chamfer operation, enter the chamfer size, 5 mm, and click OK. There is another operation that can be useful, and I will show you this operation on a new file. Select a new file here. As far as FreeCAD is concerned, as you can see, here we can work on several projects at the same time, but in the initial stage of work, I recommend working on one project at a time so that there is simply order here, so that there are not too many open tabs, but it is acceptable. We can do this. And here, create another sketch. This time, select the XZ plane, and on this plane, create a rectangle in such a way that the first corner of the rectangle is connected to the X-axis, and place the second corner anywhere. Now, add the dimensions of this rectangle. Here, 30 mm. Here, add the distance of this point from this point. For example, 20 mm. And another dimension, 40 mm. Okay, right-click to cancel the dimensioning command and create a circle here, in such a way that the center of the circle will lie on this edge, and place the second point anywhere. Now dimension the circle, and here, as the diameter of the circle, enter 25 mm. And here, still missing some constraint. The circle is not yet oriented in this axis. Let's add a symmetry constraint. Select this point, and the center of the circle, and select the symmetry constraint, so that this circle is placed in the center of this line between these 2 points. And when it comes to sketches, as I mentioned at the beginning, we can combine different geometries with each other, and we can also trim these geometries. Here we have the trim function. Select this function and select the edges to trim. Here we have lost the constraints. Right-click to cancel the trimming. And to see what constraints are lost, we can click here, and we have 2 degrees of freedom, and so what are we missing here? And so we removed this line here. We removed a part of this rectangle, and there was a center of the circle constrained to this line. And so, to fix this quickly, deselect all the geometries, because as you can see, we already have various geometries selected here. Just left-click somewhere in the workspace, and now select the center of the circle, select this point and select Constrain vertically. And here we already have it constrained, so that the center of the circle is constrained to this point and these points already lie vertically. We can no longer change the position of this point. However, still missing some constraint here, and I see that this line is not a vertical line. Still, even when I click on this point to highlight it, the circle is highlighted. But the point is precisely that at this point, this circle is not constrained. First, deselect this circle. Select that line and select Constrain vertically, and as you can see, the sketch is fully constrained. And that's what you may encounter when you're creating 2D geometry. That as you create more complex shapes, where you create one shape, then another shape, then you start trimming these shapes, you may lose the constraints. Then you just have to gently grab the geometry to move it to see where that geometry is not constrained. The sketch is fully constrained. Exit the sketch, and another operation for creating 3D solids is the operation where we create a solid by rotating the sketch around the selected axis. This is the revolution operation. Select this operation. And here, as you can see, we already have a preview showing what this solid will look like. And here in this operation are important two parameters, axis and angle. As axis, specify the axis relative to which the rotation will be performed. At this point, the vertical axis of the sketch is selected. As you select the horizontal axis of the sketch, this solid will look like this. We can also use the base axis of the coordinate system, such as the base z-axis. Then this solid will look like this. Or we can also select a reference, and then we can, for example, select some edge on the solid, which will define the axis of rotation. Here let's stay with the base axis. As for the angle, at this point we have 360 degrees entered, so we have a full angle, that is, we have a full rotation around the axis, and the solid will also be created like this. But if we enter a different value here, for example, 180, then the solid will be created like this. Click OK to approve it. And this is another operation to create 3D solids based on the sketch. That is, we have three such basic operations for creating 3D solids based on a 2D sketch. The first one is the Extrude operation, which creates an extrusion of the sketch and based on the 2D sketch adds a material. The second operation is the Pocket operation, which, based on the 2D sketch, removes material. And the third operation is the Revolution operation, which creates a solid around the selected axis by rotating the sketch. And similar to this operation is the Groove operation, which removes material based on a 2D sketch. And here add another sketch. Create another sketch on one of these faces. Add the reference geometry. And create a circle here. With a diameter of 10, which will lie in such a way that it will lie symmetrically between these points. Exit the sketch, and now select the Groove operation, and based on this sketch, a material cutout has been created here. Here we have a 360-degree angle entered, enter 180, and this is what it looks like. Click OK to approve this, and we already have a solid created using these two operations. And this was such a brief introduction to the FreeCAD. If you would like to learn more about working with this 3D CAD system, check out the other videos on the channel. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to this channel.